Good afternoon, everyone. I am Emily Bold, DRI's Marketing Director, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Before I introduce our speakers, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items, as usual. All of our attendees are muted as you enter the session. We expect today's session to be about 30 to 45 minutes. It will be a conversation, so the flow may be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, depending on what we talk about today. Questions can be submitted via the questions tab of your webinar toolbar. We'll follow up with questions via email after the live session. We'll also be recording the webinar, and that recording will be emailed to all registrants following the live conversation. Now I'm going to switch slides here, and I wanted to let you all know about our next session. On June 7th, which is 2 weeks from today, DRI will be hosting a session called The Advantages of Running Your CloudSuite Solution on Amazon Web Services. The session will be presented by Marcelo Martins, a Senior Technical Solutions Consultant at Infor. So in this session, Marcelo will review cloud infrastructure, security and updates, extensibility in the cloud, integration and workflows, and then finally end the session with a brief demo of InfoOS. So if you're on this session and you're interested in the cloud, that session is going to be a great follow-up to this session. You can learn more about that and register on our website as usual at decision.com/events. So with that, I would like to move to the next slide here. And as you all know, we're joined today by C.U.E. Inc. You can see here on the video with us. Before we introduce our speakers, I just want to give you a quick peek at our agenda. We'll do some brief introductions, then get into C.U.E.'s motive for moving to the cloud. We'll then discuss the migration process and working with DRI. Then we'll move on to a chat about customizations in the cloud. Finally, we'll close out the session by discussing some of the results and benefits C.U.E. has seen since moving from Symix 4 to Infor CloudSuite Industrial version 10. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. Tony and Peter are here. As you can see, their names are listed on the monitor right now. Peter, if you want to raise your hand so everyone knows who you are, and Tony. And also, as you can see, we have Sam on a different webcam. Sam, if you want to say hi. Sam's going to be leading the conversation today. So with that, you know who's here. We'll go ahead. I'll turn off my webcam and we'll let Sam take it over.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to start off by having the gentleman talk about C.U.E., a little background about the company, a little bit about what they do, just good information concerning the business they're in and the challenges they have as well.
So C.U.E. was founded in 1986 by owner Joe Scaletta. We are a urethane molding manufacturer located in Cranberry Township, PA, which is about a half-hour north of the city of Pittsburgh. We offer products to the corrugated box industry. We make rotary dye blankets to go on the machines to produce the cardboard boxes that when you buy things from Amazon or anywhere, you're getting those cardboard boxes. We make the product that makes the boxes. Abrasion-resistant products for the mining and aggregate industries, as well as standard and custom urethane shapes for the plastics distribution and fabrication industries. As you can see on the screen, there's some products that we show there related to those industries.
Thank you. Let's continue with the version that you were currently on before moving to the cloud, and how long have you been on that version, and a little bit about your decision to move to the cloud.
So in January of 2021, we decided that we actually went live with CSI Cloud version 10. We came from Symix, one of the oldest versions of the product. I guess Simon was the original version, and it went to Symix. We were on Symix version 4.0 before we upgraded to CSI Cloud version 10. We are now on the latest version of 10, and being on the cloud, we will continue just to be on that latest version, and we'll just evolve with the product.
Tony, thank you. I think it's interesting for the customers to know that you are on Symix version 4, and you were able to move through the process, moving data all the way through up to CSI 10, which I think is significant. So I want to make sure that the customers knew that no matter how old of release you're on, we do have the ability with some of our skill sets to take you to the current version. Now, what's the driving factors in terms of moving to the cloud, or what was behind your decision-making process?
So being on Symix 4.0 with SEO Unix as the backbone there, it was very challenging from a hardware standpoint. SEO would only recognize software up to a certain era, hardware up to a certain era, and that was becoming harder to find. So we had some spare parts, some spare server built with that older generation hardware that we kept kind of in the back room in case there was a downtime there. So we were just challenged without none of the new hardware would even think of working with SEO Unix, and just the software itself limited us in a lot of ways of how we wanted to move our company in the future. So it became evident to us over the last years that we needed to move pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges you have too is a older manufacturing company at this point. When you're trying to recruit new employees, you can't come bringing them in and have them see green screens come up when you're showing them what software you're running. So to get out of Symix and get up to CSI brought C.U.E. sort of into the modern technology world of ERP, which I think has helped us a tremendous amount. And there's going to be a lot of changes over the next several years at C.U.E. with just new employees coming in as we continue to grow. So being able to have modern software is going to help a lot on that side.
And I know that both of you have been to many Sun conferences. You saw the evolution of the cloud becoming more and more important with the Infor organization. And I know that through each of those Sun conferences, I think you gained more confidence that this is the way to go with your organization. But did you have any concerns of moving to the cloud in general?
We did. We were used to having our data on site, on-prem, and having somebody else host our data, you lose a little bit of that control. But we saw a lot of other software before this go to the cloud. Our payroll, our time and attendance, Office 365, so our Exchange server that we once housed in-house, that became cloud as well. So some of our quality software, most every other piece of our software that was internal had switched to the cloud prior to this. So we had a comfort level that it can be done. We did some things to safeguard a kind of insurance policy from our end, where we added a second internet service provider to help with downtime, because that was one of our concerns, that, okay, we have one provider, and what happens if someone would hit the pole outside of our building and knock our internet out? Now everything is on the cloud. So we added a second line. It worked out good because it's underground. So we do have that redundancy, and the way we set it up with load balancing, things that automatically switches to the other ISP if something were to happen to the one. So we have no idea if one is out. It's seamless. So I think that's a pretty good key. That's an important thing to look at if you're doing cloud software, is to have that redundancy. So it's not much closer to controlling it on-prem.
Yeah, you had mentioned, gentlemen, data protection. What was your experience? What has your experience been like with the security in the cloud? I know a lot of people have questions. I know there's issues out there with cyber attacks, and people were thinking, to try to do this with building your own systems would be very, very expensive. So maybe give us some insight to that process.
So we're in the business of making urethane. We like to put things in the hands of the people that know it well. So putting security in the hands of the people that do it is what we thought would work best. So we are a smaller company, 100 employees. We wouldn't have the resources that Amazon would have for their servers. So we're in a sense piggybacking on what they're doing, what their servers, their security is, by doing this. Now we can focus on running our business instead of maintaining our servers. Through the security and all the other the updating and everything of the servers that would have to be done with on-prem, we could put that in the specialist hands to do that. We could focus on making our urethane products and running our business.
Yeah, for a company C.U.E. size, I mean, we're the IT department, and I don't think either of us truly has formal IT experience, so we don't want to touch that. We'll let those folks that know how to do it, even down to the way DRI does things with the customizations and everything. Those folks know how to do all that and how to get it right and protect our business, so we'll let them do it.
There's another misconception, I think, and it's maybe throughout Infor customers and customers in general, is the data itself. I think some people think that because the data is housed by Amazon Web Services that you don't really own the data, and I think that's a misconception. One thing I wanted to make sure is that indeed it's secure, but it's your data, and if down the road, if you decide to move to another platform or environment, you have the ability to move the data as well. I just want to make sure that that's understood by the group. It's your data.
Yes, we understood that, and we're comfortable with that. That for whatever reason, if we were to move a different direction, we would have that to then go to wherever we go with that.
Yeah, not really something we worry about, though. We're so happy we just stay where we're at.
Something that's probably critical to this whole process is the migration process, going from Symix 4, a lot of jumps that had to take place, to CSI 10 in the cloud. Can you speak about the implementation process, working with DRI, from planning, technical assessments, review customizations, what needs to be brought in, built-in functionality, new training? I mean, can you speak about that a little bit more in terms of the process and how well it was done?
I think the fact that C.U.E. stayed with Symix for as long as it did was sort of testimony to how good the product is, even at the Symix stage. But being able to take that product and migrate it through all the steps we needed to go through with DRI's help to get up to CSI 10. As we were going through the implementation process, we actually delayed a little bit, making sure that we were going to get into the latest, most current version of CSI in the cloud, which was critical for us because we didn't want to have any iterative steps in there. So being able to work with DRI, and we timed out that migration multiple times. We actually did the migration 3 times before our go live, not only to test out the migration and make sure that it was going to work, but we wanted to constantly be working with our current data. So we were able to take Symix data, live data, move it over into our training database, test all of the work that we were doing, making sure that our employees were able to get their hands on the system and train in it. We have people, we had some employees at the time that were extremely seasoned, we should say, maybe.
Still there.
Yeah. And, it's a big switch when they were just, function key operators on Symix, and they were coming into sort of a mouse point and click environment and needed to learn it. But boy, the uptake on that was extremely fast with the way everything we did was set up. I think that made it very easy for them.
And the beauty of it was we have employees that have been with us for 25, 30 years, and they really knew Symix. They used it for a long time, since 1985 or 1995 is when we implemented Symix. So the look and feel of CSI, believe it or not, a lot of the form names are similar. The flow of the screens are similar. Table names, a lot of them are similar. So the ease of training, people got into CSI coming from Symix 4.0, and they actually, it looked familiar to them, and the learning curve was so much shorter just because of that. And I think you would see that just not only Symix 4.0, but earlier versions of Sightline as well. There's a lot of similarities in a good way. They had a lot of good things that they built in their screens and their forms, and they just pulled it forward into the new version. So from a training standpoint, we were able to take advantage of that and have our live data up to the point where we did the conversion, which would have been a few days before that, and use that in the training. And it means so much more than just a bicycle database trying to go through that, right? I mean, you're looking at your data. You can put in orders and simulate the whole process. So our pilots were much more effective. Right. We did pilots after every migration, and that made them so much more prepared. To where when we did the full implementation, when we went go live in 2021 in January, we flipped the switch, and it was almost business as usual from the user standpoint.
Right. Tony had a really good vision of how he wanted the system to work when we moved forward. So, taking that ease of training and everything else, when we went into that, we were able to evaluate Sightline or CSI and use as much as we could out of the box of that. So we really cut way back the number of customizations that we had in the Symix days. And it was great because our users in the past, you always joke about this, our users would always say, well, I need a report for that, or where's the report that I used to get that? And we'd just shake our heads and be like, no, you're not getting any reports in this system, because you learn how to use the system, and we dropped tons of customizations where the users just were able to be smarter and the software was more intuitive, that they could find actionable data. You're not just getting a stale report that's already out of date, but you could mine in, find data that you needed to use, and take action of it. So I think that's passed through the entire organization now, not just from front office folks, but even our production supervisors. They have access to both. Those folks have access to both Factory Track and CSI. So if they see something that doesn't look right, or a job that's going astray on the production floor, they have the ability to go in there and research it and figure out what needs to go and fix that.
Yeah, so we're working with live data now. It's we used to work off of stale reports, and a lot of our customizations in Symix, like you said, were reports that we built just to get to some of the data, which was very difficult in Symix days. Now we're working on screen with live data, so everybody in our company, pretty much the default is you're working off of a screen. You're working off of live data, and any reports you print, we're printing them to PDF, and you could, if you want to view them there, just but we're not printing off reports and using that to do our work. We're working on screen with live data. That's the biggest benefit. One of the big benefits that we're seeing.
So part of the process, the planning process, really dealt with the data. Data is very important, moving it from an older release to the new release. DRI, I believe, helped with that process. Looking at the customizations, okay? But part of that process, too, was looking at the new capabilities and features within CSI 10. Can you talk about that piece of it? Because I think in looking at taking advantage of the new releases, maybe looking at how some of the new functionality can fit your business model is probably important as well.
You want that one?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely took the time to understand what the new functionality was in the system, using both Factory Track and APS. So having Factory Track in the past, at the end of the day, the production folks would bring up all their handwritten tallies on what they did for the day and job numbers and everything. And our front office folks would stay there late into the evening and key all that in manually. With Factory Track implemented now, we put that right out onto the floor. The shop floor employees are responsible for putting all of that in. They own it a lot more now. I think it's made them a lot closer to their work. They understand what they're doing and when and why. So that's been a much stronger situation. We also moved forward with APS, especially on the purchasing side of the business for us right now. Going in and being able to run a material planner workbench and find out everything that you need to buy, maybe that you should have bought yesterday. You definitely have to buy today, and what you need to buy for the future is right at our fingertips. So it's been, that's a huge uptick based off of where we were in Symix.
Peter, can you talk about scheduling? I know you have complexities in your concurrent scheduling. Can you talk about how you're able to adapt the system to handle those things?
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest things that we've had to deal with at C.U.E. is being a molding company with different molds and cure times and everything else that goes into that process. With concurrent manufacturing like that, it gets very challenging for us to schedule. So that's probably the one area where we did the most of our customizations in the system. But even at that, we were able to take the standard functionality of job orders and job operations, and we just kind of built onto that with being able to schedule exactly how many pieces we were making every day at every work center. So we have 2 scheduling people that manage that on a daily basis, but it's right at their fingertips. They can see exactly what we need to manufacture for our job orders, schedule it effectively, and get it out to the floor immediately. Even if we have a new order that comes in the morning, we can have it scheduled and out on our production floor that afternoon.
So the goal was really not just going from Symix 4 to CSI 10. It was really to go forward and also enhance your operations where appropriate, based on some of the new tools and capabilities of the system.
Yes, we actually built a few things. We built a few things within the scheduling tools to help with efficiencies, productivities. So we're challenging our schedulers to make a schedule that's going to be best for our bottom line as well, and attainable for the employees to do, because we hold them accountable. So with the help of DRI, we started with the job operations functionality, and we piggybacked and we customized scheduling tools from that, and drilling into bombs and routings for labor times and everything. With all of our calculations, we've come up with how we can run efficiently and get a good day's work for a good day's pay. So with all that, we could have never done that with our old system. That was a huge thing that with the help of DRI, we were able to accomplish.
You both spoke about training, I think, already. You spoke about the fact that since some of the forms the newer forms are based on at least some of the older forms, the ability for your folks to appreciate and understand how to navigate in CSI 10 was easier. Let's talk about go live process when everything is sort of coming together. Data migration is something that's important as a part of the go live. And something also that I think that the customers will appreciate, you actually took data back to 1995 and brought everything forward to the new system. So can you please expound on those areas?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit about the 3 data migrations. That was really important for us because we knew it was going from 1995 to 2021 is a long road. And we knew that there were going to be things, because of the improvements in the software, the new functionality that got introduced. As we did that migration, there were places where we needed to get in and add new data that didn't exist in the old Symix. Mm-hmm. So we tested that through those migrations. We knew exactly what we needed to add where. So as DRI was doing the physical move of the data through the iterations, we knew what we needed to add. We handed off our database right on schedule. We took our snapshots of our core numbers and everything like that, so we could do reconciliations afterwards. And the timing went off perfect to how we prepared for it. DRI handed the information over to Infor, all of our databases to Infor, for them to put it live in the cloud. And it was back to our hands, I think, within 6 hours after that handoff. We had everything, and our team was back onto the system. And, in the areas where we had to maybe add new customer orders or anything like that had come in the interim, we were in the system and ready to go. I think we even finished up some of the work remotely, which was very nice and easy to do. So that worked great. We were able to test, as it says there, test all the core functionality and customizations well before the go live. Everything was documented and timed. Down to like 5-minute increments. We knew what we were doing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, within probably a half hour of timing, we knew, based on the prior movements of the data and migrations, that when it came to go live, we knew exactly when we were getting data. We proved it out. We knew where we needed what needed worked on the back end of it. When we did get the data, we had some work to do there, but we knew exactly what we needed to do. And some of that, like you said, we did remotely. But come Monday morning when we went live, users were able to log in and run the business and run with it. Yeah. So doing that process 3 times like we did was key, I think. If I had to do it again, I'd do that again. exactly the same way.
Well, it was, I mean, having DRI on staff to do that with us, because I mean, you guys have folks that worked in Symix, right? You knew exactly what was going on. We could even look back at some of the old customizations and old code that was there and just migrate that straight forward. We didn't have to rewrite all of that. So it was very, very easy.
So in summary, this process was good because you were able to take data back to 1995. So in the new system, in the new cloud system, if you had history back there, you can easily access it. That was part of your plan of moving everything across, not just current data.
And we weren't limited from a size of the database standpoint going to the cloud. So we said, why not? It can't hurt us. So we made our decision to bring everything forward. Now, do we use things back to 95? Probably not so much, but you never know. Yeah. We could have a customer come back that's been away from us for a while and still get some of the data back to when we did business with them before.
We were just
especially on the custom side of the business where you have that. We own the tooling on the custom side, so we make molds for them and we house them for them. It might be 10 years before they come back at us, and we could kind of go back and see what we did before. Yeah. So it's nice having that history.
It makes sense. I agree. A important part of any type of cloud migration is customizations. We talked about it briefly, gentlemen, but let's talk a little more about the process of dealing with your current customizations and moving only the ones needed to the cloud. Can you talk a little bit about that process as well?
Yeah, so from the start, I was involved with the Symix implementation, and the countless, I just dated myself. The countless customizations we did with that, a lot of those had to do with the access to the data. So we found ourselves writing a lot of custom reports to get some of that data. And we did a lot. I mean, it was just an extensive customization. So going into CSI, we said, we're going to take a look at what it looks like coming out of the box. And through the process of the 3 migrations that we did leading up to go live, we were able to see and assess that and only make customizations as necessary. We wanted to use as much of the out of the box CSIs as we could. That being said, we did do several customizations that we needed. We just felt that we needed to see things differently. But DRI has helped us tremendously with that, and we have not been limited to the customizations by being on the cloud that some might think.
Yeah, that's one of the really nice things about the software and about working with DRI is you guys understood the way Infor wrote this and the way Infor wants to do their uplifts. So when we designed the customizations, I mean, we put what we wanted it to do. We could put that onto paper and demonstrate it to DRI, but the DRI team was able to code that the right way. So when those uplifts happen, knock on wood, I don't even think about them on those Saturday mornings or anything when the uplifts happen. We know that DRI is behind us. If there should be something there, I think we have 1 or 2 things that happened, and within the first couple hours on a Monday morning, everything's taken care of. But it's not something I think about. That's probably the best way to say it.
So the customization process, it was a process that was thought out. The ones that were needed were brought over, and I think it was brought over in a way that allowed you to update relatively easily in the cloud. There's different ways of doing customizations in the cloud. I think that DRI had utilized their experience to put them in to perform them in a way that allows the monthly updates to move forward relatively smoothly.
Yes, they can coexist. The way they're designed and where they're placed really makes a big difference there. That and that was said. We talked about that prior to any customization we did. That was one of the first questions: is how is it going to be affected on a monthly update? So we thought about that, and with great insight from DRI, we were able to ease the pain of every month of updates because we just don't have it. Things just work for us because of that.
And none of the customizations feel like they're a third-party bolt-on or anything like that. I mean, they're seamlessly integrated into the page that you're on. If you're on our job operations form and you need additional data that's C.U.E. specific or that extra functionality, it's right there. you don't feel like there is a customization done.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the software. So our users probably don't realize how good it is and how well they have it now.
Yes.
Let's talk about the some of the positive results of the movement to the cloud. You talked about the process, you talked about the rationale for going to the cloud, and let's talk about the end results. Can you highlight some of the positive things that happened and you're experiencing now?
Yeah, I mean, as the bullet points say there, access to real-time data has, I think, been a significant change for us. When you have your production scheduling folks or your customer service team going in and trying to figure out what needs to happen, the data is always real time. That just helps them so much. It's not waiting to be posted at the end of the day. We have the APS planning running in the background multiple times throughout the day, so all of that information is current constantly. So we're reacting to real-time situations all day long. Proactive versus reactive is definitely the way we want to be. So it's not just looking at a report and wondering why a number is high or low. Mm-hmm. You're looking at real-time data and you say, oh, that number is high. Oh, you can drill right in and see why something happened. So that's probably one of the biggest pieces for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have anything there, Tony.
Some of the things were like with raw material increases happening every day, almost, it seems like. We have to go in and adjust our pricing accordingly. And based on our raw materials, our recipes for our urethane, certain specific raw materials, there's several that go into the recipe for each different compound that we make. Certain ones go up. We have the ability in this system to be able to drill down through the BOM to the specific parts that are affected, and then do our price increasing based on that. We would have never been able to do that with Symix. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's thousands and thousands of part numbers that we have to migrate through and figure out what's impacted it.
We would have had to have a progress programmer on staff to even think about accomplishing that, and we're able to do that relatively easily. Mm-hmm. And in today's world, in today's market, where pricing is almost market pricing on our products, which we've never seen before, we're able to react to that and keep our bottom line intact. So that's a huge piece of this, is being able to access the data. Mm-hmm. and run our business the way we need to there.
Right. Like we said, moving forward, as we do have an older workforce right now. There's some folks that are going to be retiring, and that's going to be a challenge for us. So going out and as we interview people and can bring them in and they know that we're current. It's not just the software is current, the company is current. We have our ownership is committed to the software, is committed to the business for the long haul. And I think it says a lot for Joe that he's willing to commit to that, and we've got that software running. You bring somebody in and they see that, it's going to make a big difference for us over the next 10, 15, probably until we're done. So I think that can help a lot.
And being on the cloud, working remote, through all these COVID issues we've had, we could get to our data or get onto Symix remotely. It was a little cumbersome before. Now it's pretty much seamless. You can do it anywhere. Mm-hmm. So that takes that right out of the equation. We've had a few situations where some of our employees have had to work from home and haven't missed a beat. It's worked really well.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's been a successful upgrade to the cloud. But I think obviously you're always looking at enhancing your operations, more of a phase 2 operations. Can you talk about some of the next steps, some of the things that you're anticipating taking advantage of within the cloud infrastructure?
Yeah, there's a ton of things that we know we can continue to improve with the software. Even just our users getting even better and better with what's there. Looking at implementing Mingle, so that communication between the employees just gets that much better. We're kind of lucky that we're one facility right now, but there's possible integration with some other facilities that would help. And if we have Mingle running across all of those platforms, so we could get into a multi-site environment where people in different cities around the United States could be communicating with each other through Mingle, would be a huge benefit for us. Bring that all under one umbrella of the M4 operating system. We're set up for the next several years. We've got some work to do. We've got to sharpen our own abilities and knowledge with some of this, but we want to get Burst running as well, so that we can have those KPIs at everyone's fingertips. I think we both love what Burst can do for the company, not just in having a statistic there, but having a statistic that you can drill into, and something that's in front of you every time you turn the system on. Burst is there telling you what you need to do. So again, we're set up for years and years of success with the software right now.
Yeah, the KPIs, we didn't want to out of the box get into the Burst without identifying our KPIs. So once we identify which KPIs are important, that was we thought was our logical first step in implementing Burst. So we're in that process right now. So Burst will be soon to come. Yep.
Well, Tony and Peter, we do appreciate your time today, helping us understand your journey to the cloud. Any final thoughts to the folks out there, customers out there that are maybe contemplating doing what you have done already successfully?
One word of advice would be to look at what CSI out of the box will give you. Don't go into it with all these customizations in mind to what you're doing today. Look at it that way, and then as you need customizations, talk it through with DRI and get a good understanding of what you're doing with that and how to build the customizations. That will ease any concerns you would have with going to the latest cloud version that automatically updates every month. That's probably one of the bigger things.
Yeah, and getting away from any of your security concerns, especially in with everything that's going on in the world today and the risks of cyber attacks. You want that in the best hands you can possibly get it into, and that's being in the cloud with M4 and DRI. You don't have to worry about it. So I think that's a huge part of it. I would question any company why you're not getting started yesterday with implementing and moving yourself into that position, so that you just don't have these headaches and you're on the current best system that you can find out there.
We'll never have to do another implementation again. If we stick with CSI, that's not anything that we'll have to ever be concerned with from a financial standpoint and from a training standpoint. I think that's big. We will evolve with CSI.
Yeah. And even in the little over a year that we've been live, there's been enhancements that have come out through the maybe enhancement request system where other users have found things that work better, and M4 has adopted them and put them into use, and we've benefited from them. You don't get that when you're on-prem. No.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Emily, I think this concludes the webinar today.
So I'll go ahead and close it out here. We did get a couple of questions during this session, but like I said, folks, we had planned for about 30 to 45 minutes. We're almost at that mark. We did answer some of the questions that came through early about customizations. We had one technical question come through. We will follow up with you folks. If we didn't answer your questions, we will be following up with you directly via email after the session. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to shoot a reminder out there to all of our attendees that on June 7th, we have a session with Infor on the advantages of running CloudSuite in the cloud on AWS. You can register for that webinar by visiting decision.com/events. If you have any questions, I will be sending out a recording of the session this afternoon and a link to the YouTube recording. If you have any questions, you can follow up with me with that follow-up email. So I just want to give a huge thank you to Tony and Peter for joining us today. Your insight was of great value to all of our customers who are still on-prem. So thank you very much for attending and giving us your time today. Thank you to all of our attendees, and we hope to see you at the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.